Alex from Plutus Media, one of the top UGC operators in the world of social media content and ads. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm very good. I wasn't ready for that intro, but I appreciate you.
Dude, I could have gone on and on for the intro. I have been doing longer ones lately, but I think a lot of people know who you are now in the space, so it's not even necessary, honestly.
I appreciate that.
Well, how are things going?
All is good. I appreciate the time, and I really like being here. I think this is our second recorded conversation. So the first one was really cool and did very well. So I'm hoping we can follow up on that and hopefully reach some new people with some new insights.
Let's do it. Yeah, we've probably had 100 conversations that have been recorded with Grain Meeting Recorder or whatever, Fathom, but for podcasts and long form, yeah, this would be the second. So I wanted to talk to you today about UGC and the state of it. An overall outlook, how things are going, what's trending. Let's get people up to date in the world of UGC.
Yeah, let's do it. Where do you want to start? So I see, first of all, I think I see a lot of advice online. So I don't think we've ever had a period where there's so much out there as far as information. So I definitely think the hardest part right now with the industry is really filtering through what's true and what's not.
Yeah, totally same on my end. I'm seeing more and more people give advice on UGC. I think this kind of tends to happen in spaces. There'll be a few early movers, such as yourself. People will go into the space, whether they're creators or agencies, and start moving up in terms of giving advice, and all that as well. So, people do need to be careful with what they're consuming now more than ever. One thing I wanted to ask about would be account bans. We've personally heard a lot of creators are getting account bans and dealing with shadow bans and stuff like that. Have you noticed the same? And if so, how are you guys reacting to that?
Yeah, lately it's been a big wave of that, like videos getting restricted, reach getting restricted for a number of different reasons. It's been hard to pinpoint why, but we've seen that across campaigns. I've also heard creators say that. What are we doing? Yeah, so a few things. So I think we've really ramped up daily engagement on each page to kind of see where that would take us. In many cases, in most cases, that helped a lot, but still there were some accounts restricted. But that was one of the factors I saw help a lot. So just pumping up the kind of engagement time of each account. So the time you spend engaging with other videos in the For You page to something closer to 30 minutes to 1 hour sometimes, to really try and see if that made a difference.
Are you having creators do that every single day, spending that much time on an account?
At this period, yeah, because this became a big issue. But we also have we separate creators from posters / social media managers because of these things, because it's only gonna become harder, in my opinion. These things with the managing pages, all different things you can do on each social media platform. So you really need to be careful with that, in my opinion. That's just the way I see it going forward. I don't think you're going to be able to just create any account from zero and just do whatever you want for much longer.
So, yeah, Meta and TikTok seem to have caught on to UGC and the game. My belief system is that things will progress towards some sort of digital ID in a way, which
it's already there with Google.
It is, and we actually Claude as well. I believe Anthropic are going to require people to confirm identity as well. And I think if that happens more and more on accounts, then people who do not do that, or accounts that do not have that confirmation, could see some lower engagement levels overall, or potential shadow bans. That's how I see it.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I think it's less about the UGC, honestly, Owen. I think it's much more about the whole clipping thing. So not really clipping. So what I mean is like duped content, so duplicated content across different pages. Like what I think platforms are trying to do is like reduce the amount of spam or perceived spam, quote unquote, on these across these accounts. I don't think necessarily for like good creators it's going to be like a huge thing. I think digital ID might be concerning for sure, but the whole thing around shadow bans. I think it's much more for like duplicated content, like, you know, people that try to do like mass distribution of the same content across pages.
It seems to be
I
that the big personal brands that are doing a lot of clipping right now are trying to combat that by having so much original content that it doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
So, you know, instead of long form YouTube videos that are being clipped up or podcasts, it is just streaming. Every minute
yeah.
of every day is live. So therefore you have unlimited original content.
The crazy part is that we talked about this in our last episode together about where it was going with streaming and AI and all this. And I think that's where it's going clearly, with um, these big brands, or the even the big creators, big streamers start trying to distribute that. Like, there's not much more room to just take the same content, duplicate it, clip it. It's like, it's really just original. You got to create more, and this is the worst it'll ever be, as far as like the AI that's regulating it, or the people like where the worst it's ever going to be. So it's only going to get
Yeah.
better at finding these things.
Yeah, for our own platform, our tech, we watch every single video. If you're a creator on any of our campaigns and you upload a video and it's off brief, you do not get credit for that video. So we are able to do this. Imagine what
It's
those,
crazy.
you know, like massive companies are able to do. They're
Yeah.
watching every single video, and if it is identical, that video is not going to be pushed out. And so what I'm curious about is, you know, one of the most copied formats is hook plus demo with just trending audio. Do you see formats like that dying out or losing less speed, or how does that work? Does every single, because it's kind of like the exact same type of video. So my thought process is TikTok or Meta doesn't want a ton of spam of these types of videos. And they'll be able to identify formats, put a name to that format, and maybe even potentially hurt formats and have to cycle in and out formats. So I mean, you know, do you see anything like that happening, or do you
Yeah.
think?
I've never heard that perspective, and that made me think for a minute. So I guess the way I think about it is I try to think about it from their perspective. Okay, what are we trying to optimize for, and how do we do it? And the thing that I think is happening is the easier a format is to replicate with AI or any form of automation, the faster that format will get, you know, flagged. And this can be, you know, separated by format, or it can really just be, yeah, like style of video, or yeah, I mean, it's format really. But yeah, I think it's the closest you are to having a format that's easily replaceable with an AI avatar, with an automation, with whatever it is. Yeah, the stronger the regulation will be around those. Um, so that's one of the things we talked about. So I think we're definitely going into, you know, domination for people that do good talking head, people that do good, you know, whatever, like live content, longer form, these things, that the more you can show, quote unquote, you're human, with things that, like, you know, are harder to replicate with AI, the better your content will do over time. This is my personal belief with this.
I completely agree. I recently went to an in-person event for an app launch in Miami. A little bit non-traditional way of kind of doing app marketing, I suppose. I thought it was a great success, and I had a ton of fun there. I haven't gone to an in-person event like that maybe ever. But do you think that would be something that apps would potentially lean more into, is doing a little bit more in-person stuff with their users, or is that still
Yeah.
kind of far out?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it comes back to the same framework of, hey, the further you can get from something that's easily replaceable with everything that's happening in tech, the better you'll do over time. So like, yeah, in real life stuff, events, even personalization that's real, like not personalization like the slop emails you see with the first line being, hey, I saw you studied at whatever UC Berkeley, and like actual personalization, like sending goodies to users, and like stuff like this that you can't just, you know, replace with tech. I think is gonna have a big boom for launches, for user acquisition, for stuff like this, even in the digital world. So I think the way people look at events is like, hey, you know, I'm gonna do a physical, you know, an in-person event, a ton of people are going to come, those people can become users. And they don't think about, like, okay, what about the content you can record in the event? What about live streaming the event? What about word of mouth from everyone's going to go? What about the, giving rewards for people that go to post content in the event. It's like there's so many things you can do that increase your leverage in the digital world that's not replaceable. That's insane. So I do think we're going there for sure.
Yeah, I when I got my billboard for our creator community up in Times Square because of WAP, for me it was a no-brainer thing to do because I still have that footage forever. Like that piece of marketing is always with me. I can always refer back to it in storytelling or content, and I think that's the same thing. People are not going to look at these events as the cost of throwing the event. They're going to look at literally a CPM number for this event and how many views they could potentially get. Based on the people that they bring. Or like if I were to invite 30 influencers to an event and I looked at their past 30 videos or 35, whatever statistically is significant, and I noticed that on average they're averaging 50 to 100,000 per times that many creators, and I'm expecting them to post a video or stories for that event, then we're now looking at 1.5 million views, and from potentially your exact ICP. And I think it's a unique way to market that most people potentially are not looking into. And I would love for someone to step into that space and do in-person events for apps. I know people do it already, but I mean specifically like growth teams looking at it as a lever moving forward.
Yeah. And I think the advantage growth teams need to look at as like, okay, I'm a growth team. What's my unfair advantage? Is this type of stuff, like thinking outside the box. It's like today it can be events, in 20 years it'll be something different. So it's like, I agree with you. And also, I also think there's a sense of community when you do stuff like this. So you don't look at the intangible gains of forming those relationships with people who potentially have other distribution channels, with potential intros to again, very high leverage channels, ways of marketing. Like there's a lot that can be done. It's just like any channel, it needs to be done properly.
I totally agree. A lot of people do not look at just throwing those events and kind of putting something out into the world. There's a lot of random connections and things that could be had there. For instance, that event that I went to this weekend, I met a lot of awesome people. I'm going to talk about that event like I am right now. It was an app called Hive. You know what I mean? And I'm saying that because of an event that they threw, and who knows who's listening to this and hears that and has more value that comes. You know what I mean? And they're like having in-person events again, like your mental framework of doing something that's different or harder to replicate, that is where the value is going to be.
I agree. And I think also whenever people like you are talking about the event, or even not just about the event, if you're talking to someone you met at the event, the thing that's top of mind for you is the app, is who threw the event, who made the intro. So it's like, that's just psychology. Like if you give value to someone, that value is always going to be attached to you. So it's like, that's like probably the best thing you can do if you're looking at user acquisition, just like frameworks or marketing, is just like try to give as much value as possible. That will compound, full stop.
Totally agreed. Let's switch gears here a little bit to apps and agencies. What are people doing right now? Growth teams or users or founders, app agency owners, to grow apps the best? Like what have you seen work best for your clients?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm biased, by the way. I definitely think creator marketing. So the creator economy is just like insane. Creator marketing meaning UGC, so smaller creators as opposed to going traditional influencer marketing route. Within the UGC landscape, there's a lot of things to be done, but I think people are now understanding more of how important it is to have the right creators and incentivize them right. And we can always go to tactics and say, hey, this format's ripping right now. That thing's like that in 2 weeks, that'll all be different. Like, so the main thing that I'm seeing is that as the market's expanding and as more people and it's come in and it's getting better, they're really clocking in with the importance of getting the best creators, the highest quality creators, paying them well, having incentives on the things that you want. So the best teams that I see definitely have that element of like, hey, I'm going to make sure this creator team I'm building as a community, or as I'm incentivizing right, or I'm making them feel part of the thing. And this is more like the earlier stage ones that we see, but even bigger companies, what I think is happening, and this is probably the biggest shift I've had in the recent past, is I think paid media and organic media or organic content are pretty much reaching a point where like they're the same, right? So I just talked to someone that is spending $500,000 a day for their app for user acquisition. They haven't done any organic marketing with creators. And I was just looking at that and I'm like, okay, so this is like the opportunity is insane because yeah, I can go into this, Owen, but like the main thing is the bigger apps that I see that have historically scaled with paid ads are now clocking that, hey, instead of me spending my money on producing more ad creatives, I can just spend my money on getting, organic videos posted by creators, then taking the best ones to pay it. That's becoming much more of a reality right now, especially the bigger the app is, the more common this is. And I think earlier stage is more like community incentivizing creators very well, being very close to them instead of just, hey, let me hire 200 and see where it goes.
Okay, that's super interesting for a lot of different reasons. I've noticed pretty much the exact same thing. They used to be very distinct and they are becoming more blurred, especially in terms of like a blended ROAS or, blended CPM, like what you're actually getting. So it takes a little bit more attention to detail to kind of put that entire image together. And not a lot of people are doing that and being able to kind of look at total spend and, kind of make sense of the whole picture. So that's interesting.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, I think even just logically. So if someone's listening to this that's big in the performance marketing world, it's just like, hey, for you to be world-class performance marketing, you already need high volume content production. That's full stop. You need that. So you need to be producing a lot of ads. As a second thing is like the algorithms of these social media platforms that choose to scale or not scale your ad spend and different creatives are pretty much the same as the ones that are flagging which videos get or not or don't get pushed in the For You page. So it's just like that algo knows more than you on what's good and what's not.
This is slightly different for you, but in TikTok Shop, we have a bunch of TikTok Shop creators in our group, and they've noticed, and TikTok Shop brands have noticed this as well. TikTok is not allowing videos to just get unlimited views. Basically, they've essentially realized that they want to be a part of those views. And like you're saying, if a video starts to go viral, let's say it's up to 100K views on TikTok, why should TikTok just give a brand an extra 5 million or 10 million views? So even for organic, paid is becoming a part of that mechanism. Where if you're a brand and a video is starting to do well, let it kind of keep going viral as much as you can. But as it falls off, you can spark that video. And that's where paid comes in. So TikTok's happy because they're making money on that transaction. And then obviously you are as well, because there's a ton of social proof behind that video. It's clearly been a good video if it's performing. So it's really interesting to see that dynamic where TikTok, I think Meta's probably going to do this too, but it never made sense for them to just give companies free views. So, that's kind of interesting how they're framing it too.
And I think I've seen this back in the day. So we were doing Turbo AI early on, and one of the rules we had was like, hey, if a video passes 100K views, it'll probably reach 1 million. If a video passes 1 million, probably reach 10. So it's just like, then it's shots on goals. It's just like, okay, let's get as many 1 million view videos or as many 100K view videos as we can, because we know it's basically like quality doesn't change that much. It's just what gets pushed. And right now, I think, yeah, it might be a bit capped. But I do think there's, I think Alex Hormozy said this in school, that we've reached singularity in media, like organic and paid are the same. I truly think we're there. It's just like, a matter of. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think of, a lot of people are launching apps right now, first time app founders, or indie guys, and they're putting their time into AI slideshows, AI UGC. Have you seen any benefits to doing that organically?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually think like faceless and slides right now are probably the only real things where it really makes sense to invest time if you're doing AI content. I think there's a few things to be said. So number one is I see a lot of people rely on strictly volume when they're doing stuff like this. It's like, hey, let me try to post thousands pieces of content and see what works. Whereas you could probably have 10 times less if you just knew the fundamentals of psychology marketing. Just that would be so, yeah, that would make so much difference. So I think the biggest thing I see is that, yeah, it does work, Owen, but I think people look at it the wrong way. I think they just go mass volume with it, although you do need volume for sure, especially with like this type of content. It's like you get so much more return in your time by by just like understanding why things work and then producing more of those. So yeah, like I think those two forms, like faceless and slideshows, are the ones where it does make sense to use AI for leverage, but I don't think that's like a shortcut for learning why things work, why people resonate with different things.
Are there any video styles that you like a lot right now that people should lean into?
With AI or just in general?
In general.
Yeah. I'll answer this in two different ways. So the first with AI, so it's the same thing. So I think like no one that's scrolling on TikTok that has seen a lot of these like ads basically is stupid. Like you can really see through when someone's making up a story and it's just an ad, right? And the same thing goes with AI. Like if you're like these AI avatars, I think it's like, hey, you're trying really hard to make them look human. Where I think like the my favorite style with AI is when people lean into the fact that it's AI. They do like something like a stupid video, like some AI characters, but it's actually interesting, or it's just brain rot with like whatever. I like those. And then with the humans, I think it's the same thing. So for human creators, I think it's like, hey, if you're trying really hard to like plug in a product and a story and it's not gonna make sense, and it's just like, bro, lean into the fact that it's an ad. It's like, hey, this is an ad, but this is actually good. Like, or just lean into that for the story. I've seen some hooks about this, and it's interesting. So I mean, the whole kind of framework is really just leaning into the thing you were trying to hide, because you'll get more trust from people. I really like those styles.
Yeah, it's like the reverse ad kind of thing. I've seen this a
Yeah.
lot recently too, but I've seen it work in my own content where, there's been apps or technology that I've used that I felt like was genuinely really good and it would help people. Like, guys, you should use this. Like, this is what I use. It's actually really good. I think we've seen this in podcasts a lot more, like mid-roll with like, David
Yeah.
Sendra or Founders Podcast, where he goes, I personally, I use Ramp for my team's accounting, and you know what I mean? He's like, it's really good. And it's just like, okay, well, that sounds like he's vouching for it, which, again, it's creator marketing, but he is more of an influencer versus, the
Yeah.
smaller creators that we do. So I think there's a lot of trust to be gained from small creators doing it because people probably know that they're not even getting paid as much or, at all.
Yeah. And by the way, oh, I don't know, like this might be kind of controversial for like what's said to creators most of the times, but I think even those things are crazy to use in content. Like, guys, I get paid $20 a video, but this is actually really good. Like, it's not because I'm paid. Like those things are actually funny. Like the kind of weird, funny, kind of admissions are really, really, human. They pass on a lot of trust, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think more people should probably lean into that format while they can. Just rip it occasionally. Like, every video
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
are trying to hide the ad. What if you're just like, honestly, guys, like I am getting, and people could be like, I guarantee I've seen videos like this and people in the captions are like, this is actually
Fair
nice to
enough.
see. People are being honest. Yeah, like I'll check it out. You know what I mean? So good little counter positioning, I suppose.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I really like that.
yeah, me as well. In terms of X marketing, what do you feel like is working best for you on X right now?
Oof, this is a good one. So this is B2B marketing. Yeah, there's a lot to be said there as well. I think we can go into content styles. I've seen threads pick up recently. Um, I haven't seen threads pick up in a while now. Threads seem to be back a little bit. Um, then I've also seen podcast threads or long form threads work really well. What I mean is, so if you do like long form YouTube, then chopping that up into a series of tweets and putting that into a thread has been working really well. Someone I know actually just launched an agency that just does this. So it's ripping right now. And Yeah, I see giveaways also work well on X. Giveaways meaning, you put something together, like a free resource, and then, that you use that as a lead magnet. You ask people to comment your tweet and you send them the thing. And that works well on LinkedIn and also X. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think X mostly has been, yeah, lately the biggest things I've seen is definitely threads. Like the pickup of threads has been unusual.
You know
Um,
what's crazy is on short form, for some reason there's this belief system that educational content is not as good as it used to be. I
yeah,
almost feel the opposite. With AI, everyone now pretty much has access to the exact same information, but people understand that there is alpha in spaces that they are trying to close the gap on, right?
yeah,
So if you're putting out informational content that people, it has to be counterpositioned or something that people haven't heard or something that they've wondered about. Um, but I've seen that work really well on short form again in my own content and also, my friends who are ripping on short form as well. A format that I like is the carousels, but each carousel being a video. I like,
mm,
scrolling through that a lot because it's, I can go at my own pace, but the visual is much more entertaining and it feels like, again,
yeah.
higher quality. Not everyone's putting it out. It's a format I like.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I really like that. I think, man, I think with I think it works full stop. And I think it's much more about curating information. So it's like if you're just putting out slop and like, if you're not even selecting the information you're putting out, yeah, good luck. But I mean, if you curate and you actually, you know, just do the work for people, whereas like you're selecting the valuable info, um, that's why it's valuable, is because like anyone can access information, but no one has the time to just sit down and say, hey, what's the most valuable information about this thing that I'm trying to learn? It's like it takes a long
Yeah,
time.
that's the clear defining factor is it specific knowledge or is it just curated information from LLMs?
Yeah,
If it's domain specific knowledge, it will do well. That's what
yeah,
most people are most interested in is someone who's been in the space for a long time and has some sort of unique insight. That's what rips that I've seen.
yeah. I've followed this guy Caleb. He talks about personal branding, and he's actually really good. And one of the things I really like about what he says resonates with me is, especially for personal brand, and if you use personal brand for, acquiring any type of work, like freelance work or clients or whatever it is, it's just like, it's always proof over promise. So you gotta show, you gotta have some sort of credentials. And if you don't, you gotta, you know, build it. And the thing is, like, the whole concept being your personal brand or your content is always going to be bad if you don't do cool shit. So it's like, go do cool stuff, talk about it. That's it. So it's like that frame helped me a lot in like building, trying to figure out what to talk about. It's like, okay, let's just do stuff and then find ways to talk about it.
Yeah, and when you say do cool stuff, you don't specifically mean go to Miami and run a yacht and stuff like that. You specifically mean you're gonna go get some result that people want,
Yeah.
and that would be cool in your space, right?
Yeah, 100%. And also, and I would add, like, cool for me. So if there's stuff
Mm.
that I like to do in my day to day, that's cool for me. That's an element of personal brand that people could resonate with, because it's like, even if they don't have the same interests, like, it shows I'm a human a little bit, right? It's like, hey, I have, out of pocket interests, right? Like, I like to play chess. My, so you get the, so
What's your
the,
elo?
oof, it's definitely, it's definitely martial arts. Like, I like to, I like to fight.
That's terrifying. For
No,
me,
I
it's a
love it.
lot more peaceful. I like to fly fish, but I've made a lot of content on that. I did a video maybe a month ago, and it got like 100K views on Instagram. Um, but it was it's a very weird thing. Leaning into that stuff has helped me a ton.
Yeah.
People will meet me and they're like, I know a lot of people in this space. Most people, I'm surprised that you actually go and do stuff like that. Like a lot of people are just trying to make money or talk about, whatever it is. And I think that's actually a differentiating factor. There's always people always use that quote: "You escape competition through being authentic." If you have something that you really enjoy doing, you need to actually take note of that because that's what makes you special, even though to you it feels very normal. So it's kind of like I would love to see some martial arts content from you occasionally. You know?
I love that. I'll take note of that. And I think, yeah, I think that's something I've been trying to do. And I agree with your advice. I think, yeah, any brand that you're trying to build, it's like, okay, like the authenticity is what's kind of scares you, even of sharing with people, because you're like, it's almost like your little corner of the world. But that's what's gonna stand out.
But the thing is, if you're creating your unique thing, it should be for you. You know, it's not really for other people. Now, other people might enjoy it a ton or they might not. But at the end of the day, you should feel really good about that piece of content first. And, you know, if something's for you if the video doesn't perform at all, but you feel really good about it. Because that same video or, you know, a new iteration of that video could actually perform. But if you're copying a style and it doesn't perform, you're going to drop it relatively quickly. Because you're like, okay, that was not me. Like that was something I saw that I was trying to kind of, you know, remake for me. So I think it's really important to make stuff that you're just proud of in general. And obviously our space is a little bit interesting because we're performance marketers, which means we have to take what is working and iterate on it to make it better. But in terms of personal branding, it should feel a little bit like this is very unique to me. I don't really care how it performs. This is a net positive for me to just make this video.
I agree. And I think this is great advice. And I think that there needs to be a distinction between like what you do for performance, so almost like direct response or you know, marketing that's more oriented for acquisition versus brands much more long-term oriented. It's like the associations you choose to have with yourself and that you put out there, that's it. And I mean, yeah, there's no like making the content in itself should be rewarding for a personal brand. That's how you know. And that's why it's like, yeah, you don't need to look for a reward.
When you think about branding yourself, how do you try to create your own brand long term?
So, man, I'm gonna be snatching concepts from other people, but this is just what's helped me. Brand, I think, is a very broad term that everyone uses, but no one really knows what it is. Like, yeah, brand is like, you know, what someone does or what a brand does. And one thing that's helped me immensely, and I've seen this first in one of Alex Hormozy's books, and then I saw it on Caleb Ralston's brand, which I hope I'm saying his name right. And it's basically good branding is just intentional associations. I hope I'm saying it right. So it's the things you choose to associate with something else. So it's like a pairing of things, right? So Red Bull with adrenaline, Coca-Cola with, you know, happiness. Like you intentionally choose to pair those two things, then you find ways to reinforce it over time. So when I look at branding myself, I look at, hey, you know, what's the kind of balance of the things I'm good at versus, you know, the things I can, you know, provide value to other people and the things I like. And it's like, okay, let's try to kind of merge this together and play with the frequency and the volume of each depending on what's needed at that stage. But there's always an element of all of those, and especially if, yeah, that's
very
more or less how I see it.
I've seen that come across in your content, I think, a little bit. I think with you, like I get a high level of professionalism, you know, which means like I trust you a lot. And I feel like a lot of your people trust you a lot when they consume your content. I think that should be the goal with longer form content on X or YouTube. You know, if we talk about branding with companies like a Red Bull, they're essentially just going crazy top of funnel with association with top athletes and crazy events because it's, again, original content that can be redistributed very easily. It'll be interesting to see their strategy because I'm sure a lot of their content comes from repurposed, or a lot of their views come from repurposed content on TikTok and IG. And if they were to crack down on that, I wonder what would happen, you know, to their overall views and how that would affect them. I don't know if it really would, if they're so big it doesn't matter, but I would think that they would maybe try to do some more live streamed events to have a lot more original content. But I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So this is something I've been also dabbling with, which is like, what system do you use for distribution? How do you build it? How do you do it? Do you do long form, and then from that original long form, you create original, you know, short form pieces from that? So essentially, that's the leverage. Just do more long form, and that then gets repurposed. But as far as like, like we were talking earlier, like clipping or reusing content or just, doing edits of things that are already there, I think that's going to be less and less common. I think even if they're doing it, I don't think it's going to be a good strategy long term. I don't know if that's too common, but I think definitely, yeah, the play should be more focus on long form, focus on live, focus on, these things aren't easily replicable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep you going for one sec.
of course. And I think that's one thing I'm trying to do. So I'm actually, yeah, if any of you guys end up watching any YouTube videos, they're not nothing crazy, but that's one thing I'm definitely gonna push to invest in, which is trying to be much more authentic. So instead of preparing a script for a day to film and to record something with, our thoughts all formed, etc., I think a lot of the value is also going to come from the authenticity of, hey, this just came up. I'm going to turn on the camera and I'm going to talk about that story. And I'm going to link it to the value I'm trying to provide my audience. I think that's a very good long-term differentiator.
What do you spend your time consuming?
Consuming.
Consuming. Do you spend a lot of time consuming content? Are you just reading all the time? I spent a lot of my early 20s, I suppose, trying to just like reading self-help books, like anything I could get that I felt like was improving my life. Recently, I've decided to enjoy simple things, like, I don't know, going golfing, for instance. Like, is there anything,
Yeah.
or even like, this is so dumb, like watching golfing or fishing on YouTube? You know what I mean? Like really dumb
Yeah.
stuff. I don't obviously spend a lot of time doing it, but when I was younger, I didn't spend time doing that at all. Is there anything that you
Yeah.
consume? How do you even look at consuming? Do you feel like most consumption's bad? Do you just balance it? What does that look like?
This is such a good question. I think for a long time I've consumed in a negative way with like, short form content, TikTok, like watch time being super high, and trying to understand it. Then it shifted to more long form, more self help books as well, especially around the time of starting the business. And I think lately the biggest thing has been trying to reduce input as much as I can, meaning how much I'm consuming, what I'm watching, what I'm doing. So lately it's been much more watching old movies. Like I watched Gladiator 1 and 2 in a weekend the other day. I was like, man, like, I'm gonna take these 3 hours in the day and I'm just gonna watch this thing. And it's like, I don't know, it gives me a little peace now because like it's not always just new information, new information, new information. I like to try at least and keep a high rate of follow through on the things that make sense to me. So I can't like I just feel like I'm, you know,
High
overloaded.
rate of follow through is something I got from Charlie Morgan. Info goat Charlie Morgan, but he would say, like, if you're always starting things, then you have like opened, I forgot, opened whatever. Like you're not like, oh, loops. You're not closing those loops, which means your brain is still kind of has it in the back of your mind. And that's helped me a ton. Like not keeping those loops open, but trying to close them as much as possible. Gladiator 1 verse 2. Gladiator 1, I think, clears. What did you think?
By far, by far,
Man,
it's
what
so
happened to
much better.
movies? What happened to movies? You would think people would
That's
get
what I'm
more creative.
saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I think, man, yeah. I'll tell you this. One of my best friends, he's an artist. He makes music for a living. And I really look up to him in these things. Like that guy, his his whole thing is really curating the things he does and he consumes. So he's always like looking for these out of pocket things to do. And it seems to give him an edge where he's like almost at peace without being in this whole like thing of like consuming new stuff and whatever. So I've taken that from him for sure, with like just trying to look at what we already have. Like we already have so much. It's like these things get forgotten. So I don't know. I think there's beauty in that. Of like, hey, let's watch, an old movie, or I watched The Lion King the other day. I'm not kidding. I actually did. It's crazy. I was like, man, like there's so many things I didn't remember about that movie. I'm like, bro, like this makes sense, connecting the dots. I
They
really
were,
liked it. It was really cool.
dude, I go back occasionally and watch old movies as well. Yeah, Yeah, Lion King. I think if you watch a lot of childhood movies, they had a lot more deeper messages than you had
That's
initially
it, yeah,
thought.
for
So
sure.
it's been enjoyable. But Alex, I appreciate the call. Where can people find you and see more of your information and your own content that you put out?
So on Twitter, definitely is one of the biggest places. So my @ is Alex Olim _, and then on YouTube, Plutus Media is where we put out most content. It's mostly content around content, UGC, scaling apps, but yeah, those would be the best places. And I appreciate the time and inviting me for the conversation, Owen. As always, it's a
Of
pleasure.
course, next time you come to Florida or wherever, let's do like some longer form stuff like YouTube video, something like that.
We'll go fishing, do like a fishing podcast, and but I'm planning to. I haven't forgotten, so I think yeah, we had some dates in July. We'll definitely talk about it. And Owen, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. Have a great one, and I'll see you on the boat.